Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the new tutorial. This one is quite a complex one with a lot of different things. I still try to keep it beginner friendly and didn't add like a lot of water simulations and pyro simulations that I wanted to add, but essentially we will be talking about height fields today, about kinda fluid simulation with vellum fluid that is driving these little rocks. And of course, we will talk about how we can fake water simulation, water droplets. Right now, I know that it's not so realistic. It's not that realistic that I want it to be. Maybe I will do more tutorials with high fields and some sort of objects falling into the water, and we'll simulate that when you flip SOP nodes. But for this tutorial, my initial inspiration was this work by Travis Rexdale. We can see some sort of height fields and these little vicious grains, and I assume there's some part of the coral noise also contributing to that liquid motion of the grains. Alright, so first of all, we're gonna start with the height fields. So height fields are essentially a set of kind of simulation nodes that can give you different terrains, mountains, and also it can simulate different kind of natural erosions and like any forces influencing the shape and look of our terrains. I will definitely use that in my future tutorials. Right now it will be just very shallow dive into the height fields. So definitely we want to start with the height field itself. So you can see that it's quite a large block. It's basically, I think it's 1000 by 1000 here size, and yeah, I leave it basically all by default. The only thing I modified is I decreased the grid spacing to 1, and then we will start building our noises. So noises are basically our mountains, right? So height field noise, and look at that, like right when I plug that in, we already have some sort of a mountain here. I will be using nearly exact values that I used in my original artwork, but you will see kinda my idea behind creating these more sort of more stretched rocks, so we have more space for the grains to actually like flow down like that. So for this our first height field noise, I want to go with amplitude at around 190, and I want to set the scale to be 0.1, 0.6 and 0.7, and this gives us these ridges that our particles will follow, because we will have a slope and it will go like this basically. I also here in the distortion, I want to enable the lattice warp, and I want to set the lattice warp to be minus 0.35, and frequency we can keep it a bit lower so we don't have much you know, the bumpiness like this one. I want to keep that frequency at 0.4 like this. We can enable gradient warp and also accumulate gradient warp, and this gradient warp I keep it very low, so at 0.091, and it gives these cool little additional erosions. I don't know. Yeah, basically what it does here, it says it widens the peaks and valleys of the noise, and our lattice warp adds stringiness or vibrance to the standard noise. So if we uncheck this, this looks pretty good, but I mean, if we want to distort it, and here I really want to distort it, enable gradient warp and enable lattice warp, that's the thing that we need. So then I want to add another noise, and let's go again, height field noise. So this one will add kind of secondary noise, and what I want to do here is set the noise type to be Worley cellular F1, and you can see it's not that organic at all, but we will modify it in a bit. So I want to set the element size to be 300, and yeah, that's obviously too much for the amplitude, and we want to lower it down to be like, I don't know, 30 for example. So what it gives us, it makes the whole terrain go up and down a bit. And here's our first noise, and here's with the early cellular noise. I kept the max octaves here at like 3, and same thing for the distortion. I think I actually went with the like same values. Yep, like this, and lattice warp minus 0.35 and frequency at 0.5. And we have these little ridges, these little veins. I don't know, they look pretty cool. I don't know if they will be visible on the close-up shots, but I somehow added this noise and I thought it looks pretty cool. And finally, our last noise, height field noise, and you can change however you want them. This one will have the amplitude of 30, element size at 100, scale I want to set it to be 0.8, and noise type I want to go with Perlin flow with a fractal of terrain. And for the distortion, again enabling lattice warp and gradient and accumulate gradient warp. And with this one, I want to go with gradient warp at 2.9, lattice warp at 0.25 and frequency at 0.77. So this just added these additional bumps here. For example, this is on our cellular noise, then we add just a bit of additional parallel flow noise. So this is just with the one noise, then we add the cellular, then we add the parallel. I think it really adds these little subtle details, really add to the main noise and make it even more realistic, or in general like interestingly looking. But one thing that we forgot to add here is distortion of the height fields. So for this one, I want to add height field distort by noise, and let's see what this node does actually. So by default it adds the curl noise to our height field. I want it pretty kind of drastically, so I will get amplitude to 100, element scale I want to set it to be 5, 3 and 0, max octaves I want to set it to be 15, and actually I want to apply our two noises after the distort. So let's get it into the chain. So this yeah, this looks pretty cool to me. But if we add our grains here, nothing will happen because they will just sit down in these ridges. So yeah, it won't be that interesting even if we add like any noise forces or winds or anything. So that's why we want to go with a little slope, I assume on this side, like this. And that's where we need height field patterns. This is a pretty interesting node because I can get any sort of patterns on my height field. And for instance, there are like stars, steps, stripes, like a few different presets for you to start working on. Interesting thing is that right now it says combine with set to replace, but if I plug my noise here and switch replace to add, you can see that we are combining these patterns with our previous noise. So yeah, quite a lot of possibilities to work with this one. So I want to go with just a ramp, and you can see that we have this ramp that repeats itself. We don't want it, and yep, let's uncheck the repeat. Now we have just one giant step here, and I'm not sure if this is what we want. So what we're gonna do is increase the size of the position of the pattern. Let's set it to be 1000, and our scale, or actually the center, should be half of our length of the height field, so minus 500. And right now I think I need to revert this one. So yeah, like this is basically where you can find because we have these ridges. I don't know where they are cooler. Maybe from this side or maybe from this side. I think let's go with this side. I like this slope here. So yeah, then we kind of adjust that slope. I wanted to go like this, I think, maybe like that. Yep. And these two, I would love to set these to be Catmull or maybe monotone cubic. Yep, like this, like a real slope. And then maybe we also can add curl noise, and for this curl noise I want to go with amplitude at 100 and element scale 15, or actually maybe 10. Yep, on this one. And I think we have our pretty cool terrain, especially if we will be looking like up close. Like that could be something cool. So now what I want to do is convert height field. I want to convert it to the polygons. So let's drop the convert height field node and visualize it, and boom, we have the UVs, we have all the things we need. Maybe it would be cool if we could blur this just a bit, because this feels a bit too rough to me. So attribute blur, and yeah, just a bit. I mean, plug that to the left input of the attribute blur, and blurring duration set to 3. Pretty cool. Maybe you want to uncheck border points and check if influence type by proximity would work better. What if we go with like 10 blurring iterations? Yeah, I didn't think so. Let's go with 1 blurring iteration, and step size, let's set it to be 1 point till the point it doesn't distort our geometry too much. But yeah, generally speaking, I think this one will be good. And yep, our height field is done. The only thing I wanna also do here is do this extrude base. So this is if you will be like rendering it like that, like not the close-up, but maybe if you want to render out a micro terrain or something. Yeah, maybe for this tutorial we don't even need to extrude the base. Yeah, I don't think so. But right now I definitely want to transform it and scale down a lot. Quite a lot. For this one, I want to go with, I don't know, something at 0.01, as I did it in my original tutorial. So this is much more manageable to work with grains, because for the terrain at like 1000 by 1000, we would go with a P scale of, I don't know, 10. But yeah, we have our terrain. Cool. Let's drop a null and let's call it out terrain, and this will be our terrain. Or should we call it mountain? Or no, let's go with terrain. And now we want to add some fluid grains to this terrain. So what I want to do is drop another geo node. Let's call it grains. All right, so for these grains, I wanna my terrain to be still visible. I wanna add the box. You can go with whatever geometry. This will be just an emitter for our fluid particles. For this box, I want to set the size on X to be 4, on Y to be 0.25, and on Z to be also 0.25. And for my centering, I want to up that by 1.5 and translate by Z axis on -2.7. So yeah, this is our very basic emitter. Let's go to the front viewport to see if we actually don't have any intersection, and we have. So let's move it by 1.6 on y-axis. But this looks pretty good to me. We will have all of our particles here, or points actually, because next node is called points from volume. And the main difference between points from volume and scatter, because you could think both of them produce points, but scatter will scatter points on top on the surface of the geometry, but points from volume will create a volume from the box first and then scatter points very kind of grid like, very regularly. So in this case we want to go with points from volume. The point separation and the points from volume, I've set it to be 0.25, but you can go lower. Actually, it's not that hard to simulate vellum fluid, at least on my MacBook, which I don't consider to be overly powerful laptop. So add scale attribute at 1, that's good practice, and then vellum configure fluid. So for this one, I want to uncheck create points from volume. And for my particle size, I want to copy this parameter here, point separation. And for the particle size, I want to just paste relative references here. So this parameter right now, particle size, is bind to our point separation, which is more or less the same thing. And now we will have our vellum fluid. So what we can do is just for the sake of kind of experiment and like knowing that we did everything correct, we can drop the volume solver. We can connect the first input to the left inputs, the constraints input, which is pink, to the second input of the volume solver. And then we can do object merge, and we can merge our terrain like this into the volume solver as a collider at the collision geometry. And we can probably yeah, we can play the simulation and see what we have here. And yeah, it works. Cool. Yeah, you can see the streams forming. So these will be our streams, right? And for our volume fluid, the few things I want to add is viscosity. I want to set it at 100, and you can experiment with that, because the higher the viscosity, the cooler it will look rendered as particles. Because for me, it looks really interesting when the geometry that is not fluid, and it doesn't look like fluid at any point, but it acts like it's being in the sort of a jelly fluid or lava, and it's getting pushed and pulled by that fluid stream. Another thing is repulsion weight. Just leave it at 1, and yeah, maybe let's check how it looks again with the viscosity set at 100. And yeah, we see a lot less splashes here, and yeah, we see that some part of our fluid will get to the left side and not down the mountain, but we will fix that with a few forces that we will be adding later. So now it's an open question for you if you want to go with very tiny particles that you can then maybe render as spheres. There's not that necessary, in my opinion, in my kind of creative vision, to create rocks out of them if they are so tiny. And then you just set your point separation to, I don't know, let's try something 0.15, and let's maybe render a few frames here. But yeah, they will look really small and tiny. You also might want to up the substeps if you go that small here in the solver. Up the substeps to 2, and maybe constraint durations to, I don't know, maybe 300. But I want to go with just for the sake of time, I want to go with a bit higher point separation at 0.03. And this way, yeah, it goes really fast. And right now I want to show you the thing with the curl noise for the fluid simulations. And for this one, let's just remove our terrain. Let's also hide it, and let's add a grid, which will be our collider. I want to set this to be a pretty big grid, so 100 by 100. And right now, if I just drop this block of points, it just goes in a one big splash. I want to up my grid just a bit. So let's center it up so we don't have that much of a splash, right? And here I want to check it out. And yeah, now I want to go into the volume solver here, and into the forces I want to add wop pop wop, so like this. And in this pop wop we will add a curl noise, so curl noise. Cool. Now this curl noise, I want to add that to all of my velocity vectors. So we need a position. Let's plug that into the pos input. I wanna this noise evolve as the time goes. So I wanna plug the time into the offset, and then I wanna add that noise to my velocity like that, using this add node. And then I want to plug that noise back into the geometry WOP output. And I want to simulate it right now and see how it goes. And this is obviously too much of the noise for our geometry. So let's decrease the curl noise. We want to set the amplitude to be 0.1. And let's now play and see how it goes. So we definitely see some movement, and yeah, it swirls around pretty much what we need. Maybe the only thing I want to add here is sort of more detailed noise, or maybe just like increase the frequency. So let's set the frequency 303, because we don't need any frequency for Y, right? And I also maybe want to up the turbulence to be 4, so we have a bit more rough noise. And let's simulate, I don't know, 120 frames and see what we got. And here's the results. So we have the curl noise influence all of our particles. They're flying away. All looks pretty cool. The other thing that I want to add to my noise is I don't want it to be like, I don't want it to accelerate too much. So we can do that by adding the clamp node after our add here. And I want to clamp the values. I want to set the signatures to be 3D vector, and I want to clamp them to be -1, -1, -1 as the minimum, and 1, 1, 1 as the maximum. So you can tweak these values if you want your fluid to move a bit slower, but essentially it will prevent it to like fly away completely, lose all of its shape and etc. So here how it looks, how the curl noise influences our tiny little particles. If we go with a point separation at 0.015, for example, we might need to decrease that noise, because then it might become too much for such small particles. But yeah, I think still it looks pretty good. All right, let's go with 0.03 for this tutorial. So what we have here is our terrain again. It's back. And for this pop wop, because we add our curl noise to our velocity, we still have our gravity working, and we can add a bit of pop wind if we want. I'm not sure if we even need like curl noise for this one, because we have the stream that goes down, so maybe we don't even need the pop wop. This curl noise is great to kind of showcase the curl noise moving our particles when they are on kind of flat surface, like it was in the Travis Rexdale's work. But for my pop wind, I want a bit wind blowing like from somewhere like here. So let's set the y to be -1 and z to 1, and I want to set the amplitude to be 0.3 and maybe a bit more turbulence. And for now I want to disable my pop wop and see what we got. See maybe if we actually like don't need the curl noise. I just wanted to show you the thing that you can use yourself. And here we have the noise influencing the particles. For me, I think that we still could add that pop wop, and yeah, let's maybe play and see what we have when we have the curl noise influencing our particles. And yeah, we definitely see a lot more movement for these particles. But right now, I think that we don't have enough of them, and maybe we wanna constantly emit them for a few seconds. So then we will go with the DOP network instead of the Vellum solver and SOPs. And right now I want to add two nulls. One will be, and we can delete these two. So one will be out geo, second one will be out con for my constraints, like this. We can also delete this object merge here for our terrain. We can delete the Vellum solver. Oh no, let's keep the Vellum solver for now. Just keep it as it is without any connections. And for my DOP network, I want to quickly set up the Vellum solver. So we want to add gravity, we want to add Vellum solver, we want to add Vellum object, we want to add Vellum source, we want to add our collider geometry static object, and then we will need to merge it with the Vellum solver. So select Vellum solver and static object, connect them into the merge, Vellum object to the left of the Vellum solver, Vellum source to the right of the Vellum source solver, and subpass should be out geo, constraint subpass out con. For my static object, subpass should be terrain, use object transform, I think. For my physical collisions, 0 for the bounce and 0 for the bounce forward. For the collisions, we can go with just like surface collisions, like this. And then what do we need else? I think, yeah, that's it. Just plug the merge into the gravity to the output, and yeah, let's see what we got. Somehow with the surface collisions, it's very hard for it to process. Maybe let's keep it at use default, and I wanna 0 everything, use solver default, and now let's try again. Yep, it works much faster. Yeah, so this is the exact same setup we had in Vellum, but we have these forces here. Let's just copy them and paste into the DOP network right here, and we can plug that into the particle forces. So now we have the exact same setup that we had here in the vellum. So in my DOP network, what I want to do is bring the vellum source emission type to be each frame, and I want to set the activation to be less than simulation frame 10. So $SF less than 10. So all the frames that are less than frame 10, we are emitting new spheres, new particles into our simulation. And let's check how it looks. Yeah, looks pretty good. We have 10 times more points than we had before, and we have a massive stream going down the hill. So this is basically what we want. Yeah, we have everything that we want. I think this is a good starting point here. I think I actually want to go in this tutorial. I will show you how I scatter these rocks, but I want to try how it looks with the smaller particles. So let me set the points from volume to be 0. I want to go with 0.018, and then I want to go into my DOPNet. And yeah, maybe set the substeps to be 2, and then I wanna file cache. Let's say I wanna file cache around 150 frames. So delete channels for start and end, set the 150 here, and I wanna go with explicit path to my files, my file cache, and hit save to disk. So here we have our 150 frames of the fairly small grains jumping around. Here I think we actually might decrease the wind and the curl noise. Yeah, let's go. Let's also add pop drag, like add that at air resistance at 2. For my pop wind, let's go with 0.1. And then for the pop wop, I want to set the curl noise to be 0.05. And yeah, I think this will work better. Let's resim these 150 frames. And I think this looks much better. We don't have that much particles flying around. It's more like a consistent stream here. So yeah, I think this will be our starting point to actually add water, especially like somewhere here. I think it really depends on what you get from the height fields. So be sure to check your terrain for that slope that we have here. It will be pretty necessary for it to be kind of prominent, so we can add our water here and work with that. I just want to add my null here after the file cache, which I want to call out grains. And before we create our water, I want to delete everything that is not the volume source. So I don't want terrain here actually. Let's remove the visibility of my terrain, and here delete non-selected. Yeah, now we don't have any terrain here. Let's enable terrain again here in the main geometries, and let's add another one. Let's call it water, and let's work with that. So I want to add a box which will be pretty big, I would say. So I see my slope starting somewhere here. So what I want it to be on z-axis, I want it like this probably, with a little shift, and then I want it to be brought up a little bit, and I want it to be like all with, so 10 by x, and where our grains are, yeah, they're here. Cool. Now I just see that we need to get it down a bit at 0, and yeah, this will probably work for us. Also, we can move it just a bit like that, just for the grains, and maybe let's make it wider, like maybe 6 here, and then we can move it back just a bit like that. Yeah. All right. So now we will need a lot of subdivisions for this one. So let's say 100, or no, even more, like 300 rows on the x-axis. For my z-axis, I don't need much, probably like 3. For my y-axis actually, and for the z-axis, just aim for sort of square rows. So yeah, at 180, I think it's pretty square. Yep, cool. So with this box, we definitely want to add auto UVs. If you don't have labs auto UVs, go to your side effects launcher, and that's where you can add your labs to your Houdini. So now we have the UVs, and I want to add really subtle noise to this water grid or box or whatever it is. Not particularly worried about these parts here because we won't render them, but anyhow, I wanna set my noise to be like 0.01, something very, very tiny. And I wanna set the element size to be 0.3. So just really, really subtle noise. Maybe noise type, let's set it to be Berlin flow. And yeah, maybe a bit more noise. So yeah, maybe like this, or even 0.3. Right, yeah, this looks good. Then I wanna mask areas where we see the grains falling into the water. So we obviously need to import our grains. So object merge, and we can hide the grains from the scene, because right now we will import them into this geometry. And then I want to drop mask from geometry, and I want to plug the mountain to the left input and grains to the right input. And then I want to add color, and I want to set the color type to be a rem from attribute, and attribute should be mask, because mask is what our mask from geometry produces. Right now we don't see anything because mask from geometry wants primitives on the input, but we can change that to points, and here we have our mask. So this part of the water I will be using Redshift to just displace or kind of add bump map to be more specific, and this part will be, I will be trying my best to kind of mimic the foam. I want to set this radius to be like 0. Maybe 0.2, 0.3, and then before my coloring I want to add attribute blur. We can set this attribute that we want to blur to be mask, and maybe blur 10 times. Maybe pin border points unchecked and set to be proximity, so we have more blur. And yeah, I think blurring even more, yeah, like this. So the thing is, you want to make sure that your blur doesn't start before your actual grains hit the water. So let's just check. We might be like at frame 30, then at frame 36 it already starts blurring it. So yeah, we maybe want to decrease this blur mask to be like 30 or even 20. And this is too little of that mask, so it won't influence that much. But yeah, something around 20 should work fine for us. Yeah, let's go and work with water. Here I want to add much more noise for this white part. So what I want to do is subdivide this mesh so we have access to more fine detailed noise, and we can subdivide it maybe 2 times so the mesh is really, really dense. And then we can plug the subdivide even before the color, so we have the color data also subdivided. And then we can use the blend shapes, and I want to plug this color into the blend source, and here I want to add a few noises. So let's go with the mountain noise again, and we can plug that to blend shapes, because we don't want to see all of this with that much noise. And to see only this part with the noise, we want to set the blend masking to be set from attribute and set it to be mask. Right now we see a lot of waves here. Maybe that's a good thing here. Why not? Why not to start with a big noise? Want to set the offset to be $time, so as the time goes, oh yeah, it will be slow here, but we will see these big waves here. Why not? Maybe let's set the amplitude to be 0.2 instead of 0.25. And then I also want to add really, really tiny noises to kind of displace my geometry here. I want to go with the Berlin flow, element size set to 0.05 and amplitude at 0.01, or maybe 0.05, yeah, something like that. Some sort of a ripples, you know. Try and going with a ChatGPT and asking how to create ripples in wax didn't work out. But yeah, I think this is pretty good. We will have these big waves here. We also will have our ripples. Ripples are also offset by time. So yeah, let's drop a null and call it out water. And we still have the color data to use for our masking of different materials in Redshift. So all of that combined gives us this result, which is pretty cool to me. We might need to get our water moved a bit to the right side, So 1.5 maybe. And of course, yeah, it will need to recalculate everything and all that stuff. So yeah, we wait a bit. Or actually, you know what? We don't need to move it that much. We actually need to get it like to 0, but we can get it down a bit, just like tad here. So now, yeah, now it's perfect. Look at that. We have all the parts that we actually want to see. So I'm just wondering if we have our masking working. Let's check. Well, yep, it works. Look at that. And do we have any particles under the water? Not yet. Maybe at frame 150, they will already be there. Yeah, we definitely see some particles under the water here. All right, so now I think it's time to set up the camera, materials, and render it out. Let's drop a camera. I wanted this camera to be 1080 by 1920, and the focal length here I want to go with like 80, I think. And yeah, let's reposition this camera. I think something around this will work, like that. And for my lights, I'm using my RS light dome, which I use pretty much everywhere. It's this brown photo studio from HDRI Heaven. Saturation to 0. Environment, I don't need background here, and I don't want it to be enabled in viewports. And for my material network, yep, let's go and create a few materials. RS material here, RS material, no, redshift material, that is an out. Plug the out color to the surface, and let's duplicate this 3 times. So first will be terrain material, second one will be grain material, and this one will be our water material. All right, cool. So now I think we can start the redshift and start building our materials. So new paint type, redshift render view. And before we start rendering it, of course, our grains should be rendered as grains. So redshift obj, particles, render objects as particles. And yeah, I think the global scale multiplier, if we set the P scale correctly, I think it should be at 1, and all will be good. So yeah, let's try rendering that. And we received something. But yeah, this looks pretty good. I mean, we have the mask working here. Yeah, we have everything that we need. Maybe we forgot the normals on our terrain. I think so. Let's check. No, we don't have normals, so drop the normals after the transform. All right. And yeah, now we will be setting our materials. The only thing we actually need is to assign the materials. So let's go and create the material network. This goes terrain here, grains, grain material, water material. So all should be good. Now let's go into the material network and start building the materials. So first of all, the terrain, right? For this one, I want to go pretty rough, like 0.74. For the colors, I maybe want to go with max on noise and plug it here into the diffuse color. Obviously, I want to go with UV vertex attribute for my noise. Let's rebuild the render, and we already see that it's looking better. Here, I want to go with the wavy turbulence and octave set to 7. My noise overall scale, I want to go with 0.3, and for the z-axis, for the y-axis actually, I want to go with 0.5 in the scale. So this is kind of an erosive terrain or something, and I definitely don't want to go with black and white, right? So let's set this one to be like dark gray or something. Yep, like that. And this, of course, is too smooth for any sort of actual terrain. So I want to introduce 2 types of bump maps. So one of them, both of them actually will be noises. So one of them will be max on noise, and let's plug this into RS bump map, the color to the texture input, and this out goes to overall bump input. And of course you can see that right now it's too much, and of course it's not looking anywhere realistic. I want to go with turbulence for my noise, and I want to bind it to my UV map, and I want to scale it up. Maybe not that much, maybe like 5 or something, or actually like 3. And this will be my primary noise, maybe even at 2. This just defines a bit more complexity into the shape of the rocks. I want to decrease, let's maybe see without them. Yeah, it's absolutely flat. So 0.3, 0.4, not much. This is just kind of the base layer of our bump map. And then I want to add secondary bump map, and I want to check it out without any sort of blending for now. Just plug it into the bump map, and for this one I want to go with RS noise, and yeah, let's plug it into the texture. So here the thing is that we should modify these settings here. I want to go with complexity at 5, amplitude gain at 1.7, and maybe add a bit of distortion, just a tiny bit. And for this one I want to of course bind it to the UV, right? And because our UVs are huge, the overall scale here will be 1000 actually, or maybe 100. Yep, like this. So now we introduce all the fine details into our rocks. And for this bump map, actually, I want to go with the height scale at 0.2 maybe. And the thing is, I want to blend these two bump maps. So there's a node, RS bump blender, and I want to plug my first, which is kind of our base layer, into the base input. And this bump map that we just created, this fine detail bump map, I want to plug that into the second, or the first input of the bump blender, and this bump blender goes to the bump input. And now we will see only the first layer, which is base layer. But if we get this blend weight at 0.5 at the layer 0, we will see kind of mix between this and that. And I found this to be most realistic because going with only the fine details produces too much of these details on the surface actually. So blending these two maps actually, to my liking, gets me the most realistic looking result. And maybe even decreasing the 0.5 to be 0.3 or 0.4. Yeah, 0.4 is the way to go for me. And that's it for the terrain. For my grains, of course, we can bind any sort of parameters. For example, their position, we can bind that to the color, to the reflection, to anything. For example, we can start, I don't know, maybe the particles here at the top could be red, and then they could be like white or black or anything. This is done binding the Y position to the color or to any attribute, and then we can use that in RS point attribute here. It defaults to CD, but it can be any attribute. For now, I just want to make them sort of iron, sort of toxic iron, just for now, while we work with our water. So for my water, I'm not a Redshift expert, right? I've just started using not so long ago when I understood that Octane is not capable of rendering on M1 chips in Houdini. So I'm using these presets a lot, and I want to go with milky coffee for my water like this, but I don't want it to be this color, right? So for that, my Fresnel type should be IOR at 155, and my subsurface, I want to get it from the extinction to be transmittance, and scattering coefficient should be around like this grayish something. I set it to be 4, and my transmittance color should be perfectly white at 100. So this already looks pretty good to me. The only thing I want to add is to introduce tiny bit of bluish color, like at 0.1 here, and that's basically it. I also wanted to get rid of these reflections here, so I added just a bit of roughness at 0.1. But this is for our kind of basic water, but there's this mask that we just created for the particles that went into the water. Actually, you can see them, I think, see them here. So we will need another material. I want to copy this milky coffee, and for now I will just plug that straight into the water material. And this one, I want to make it like a lot less translucent. I want to make it white, and I want to add a few bump maps to that. So how we can do that is upping the scatter scale, set it to white, maybe absorption scale. Yeah, no, absorption scale, I think we can leave it as it is right now. But basically that's it, just up the scatter scale. And of course we will need a few bump maps, or maybe just one, but still. For this one, I want to go with max on noise, RS bump map. Let's plug the bump map into the overall bump input and out color to our bump texture input. nope, this doesn't look good. I definitely want to decrease the scale of my bump map to be at 0.1. And yeah, let's render some regions here. So yeah, like this. And for my max on noise, I want to go with displaced or blistered, either blistered or displaced turbulence. Let's go with a displaced turbulence. And for my input, I want to make my UVs as a noise input source and make it really tiny, like at 0.2, 0.1, something like that, 0.2. Then I want to make it just pure white, and maybe for the absorption scale, increase that to 200, and for scattering scale, decrease that to 50. Or even 10, or even 1. Nope. Just for the sake of experiment, what it will be if we add an emission. It won't be, yeah, maybe just an emission at 0.1, just for the sake of experiment. Yeah, and then, of course, this is not looking any good, but we need to blend these two materials. So RS point attribute, my attribute I want set to be mask, and then material blender to blend these two materials, our water and our kinda, I know that's not the real white water. I still want to keep some degree of artistic input here. We're not aiming for the realistic white water. But yeah, this goes to the base color, this goes to the layer 1, and our blend color goes into the blend color of the input 1. And now this goes to the surface, and let's restart the render. And now you can see that here our water is more milky. Maybe we can even up the bump map like that. So yeah, I think that's it. I just want to check how it will look if I get my terrain. Nope, not the terrain, my water. I want to get this box to 0.1, minus 0.1. So get it a bit higher. Yeah, so if we get our water a bit higher, it's much more much more prominent foam here. I probably will do another tutorial, another variation of this tutorial where I will be actually simulating the water, and the white water will be looking a bit more realistic than this one. But still, I think that this is looking pretty good. Would love to add some post effects, obviously. Let's go with the bokeh. Let's maybe target some particles here, and in my bokeh I want to go with like 0.47, and for my color controls maybe want to up the exposure and a bit more contrast, just a bit. Or yeah, these green grains are here just for an example, and right now they are obviously too bright. Just wanna decrease this metal edge tint, maybe make them sorta the same color as the water, maybe like this. But anyhow, you are free to play with this one, try different camera angles, different terrains. It's all procedural here, so you cannot influence that too much, but I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Many more to come this year. I'll be working on a few courses. Already started to checking out procedural modeling, and I want to bind the KineFX and RBDs at some point. But yeah, that's it for today, and I'll be back with a new tutorial very soon. Bye!